Welcome to Thyroid and Autoimmune Revival. I'm Naomi Suzanne from Naomi's Home Health, and I'm a holistic health coach that specializes in thyroid and autoimmune healing using natural solutions. Today, we have a very special guest, Lana Jackson, who was an integral part of my healing journey. Lana is somebody who I turn to a lot throughout my healing, a lot of phone calls to Lana. Today, we want to talk about the energy and power of our words and our thoughts. And this is what Lana taught me a lot. We talked a lot about how I spoke about my health, my healing, changing that negative thought pattern into a positive thought pattern, gratitude, and things like that. And I didn't understand it until Lana put it in front of my face and said, change how you say that, or change how you think about that. Especially when I was talking about like losing weight, and I focused so hard on that because the last podcast I did, if you listen to it, was about the impact of dieting and having balance in your life. And Lana showed me that that's not where I needed to be. It was about healing and how I spoke and thought about it. So let Lana introduce herself, and then we'll go with that.
Well, firstly, thank you for inviting me to come onto your podcast. It's such an honor to be here. And even though we do go way back, it's always amazing to be able to support you in what you do and everything that you do. So a little bit about me. Ultimately, I am a multifaceted human being.
Wow.
I walked with my feet in both camps for many years. That has led me to become a business mentor, as well as a medium and a psychic. I also focus on astrology, and my journey with astrology started when I was 10 years old. And given that I'm now in my mid-50s, it's taken me on some really interesting twists and turns, which has led me to where I am today. In terms of how I help and support, well, I understand energetics from so many different angles, but I also have a background in corporate and human resources, and I became a primary school teacher and then a workplace trainer. So I have walked with my feet in both camps, and now working in business. I've been in business now for 18 years. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
And that has been, a journey in itself of uphill and down dale.
Yeah.
I've definitely had my successes, and I've had some huge and massive failures, and all of which has taught me to come back to center and work from the heart. And so that's where I've ended up, and now it's the journey that I'm on.
Yeah. And I've watched that, and it's been amazing. We've known each other for like over 20 years, and
Yeah.
we started out as friends, but we've always connected together on healing and energy. And, we've always had that with each other. And through my healing, you were one of the most supportive friends that I had. And I knew that I can turn to you, and I still do, like ring you like, oh my God, help me. So
Hey, this is going on.
yeah, help. And you're someone who brings me back grounded and back down to earth when I'm flying off the handle about something or whatever. And it's about you getting me to think about the stages that I'm going through step by step. And even in business, when I've started my business, you have been a mentor for me through that. So it's not just the personal growth that I've had with you, it's business as well. We've worked together with different things, and I've always looked to you as like someone, you're the first person I think of basically when anything happens in business or my personal life. So I really wanted you to help other people that are listening to this with language and energy and the energy around that through their healing, because I see it in my thyroid group, how people speak about their healing. And I think about the things that you used to say to me, like, geez, if they only changed their language, or they only changed the way they looked at their healing. And I work with my clients on that now. Every program has something to do with language and positivity in it because of what you showed me.
I love that. Look, I am a massive believer. Years ago, back in just after my daughter was born, I was working on a TV show, and I was doing a reading for a client on the TV show, and I had this message drop in of words have meaning, meaning has intention, intention has energy, and the universe responds. And that's been my motto ever since. And the other one that has dropped in is awareness is the key, acceptance is the answer that turns that key and opens the door. So life is really about context. I mentored a guy, and him and I worked together for 3 months, and he's gone off to, be really, really successful because he really puts in the effort and the commitment, and, he's determined and all of that. And so that was a few years ago, and he still comes back and speaks with me. And I said to him, what is it that makes you call me? You work with pretty amazing people.
Yeah.
He said, well, for a start, you're pretty amazing too.
Yep.
But as he said, you give everything context. And I had never thought of the way that I work in that angle before. So context, I'm like, oh shit, what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
And so I looked up, I'm a big believer in looking at the meaning of a word. And, I've been called all sorts of things. So the dictionary has become my very good friend. And so
Yeah.
has the thesaurus, because I understand how words make meaning and words give context. So when we're talking about someone in their journey, and the different life lessons that they're going to learn, you don't have to like the lesson, but it doesn't mean you're not going to learn it. So if you're going to learn it, then give it meaning. Look at what it means to you. So back in 2007, when The Secret was first released, that was the flagship for me in terms of understanding my language. And I've been working on my language now since 2007. So we're going back quite some time. And what it highlighted to me is how much we are actually conditioned to understand meaning from someone else's interpretation. And so that actually taught me to bring it back to, what does it mean for me? When we understand the meaning of, say, the word toxic, like we immediately associate the word toxic with a negative. However, if we can identify that something is toxic, then we also identify that we're aware of it, we accept that it is, and we decide what to do from then on.
Yeah.
And so if you're toxic within yourself, and it's not for me to tell anybody whether they are or they aren't, it's really up to you to decide, yeah, maybe I am a bit toxic right now. So be aware of who you're associating with and how they are speaking too. I don't know how many times when we've been on the phone together and I've said something and then said, oh, hang on, let me rephrase that.
Yes.
Because I've said something and realized how negative that sounds and gone, oh, hang on a minute, I've just manifested that.
Yeah.
So everything that you're experiencing today is a product of something you've manifested in the past. If you keep speaking negatively about yourself and other people, then you just continue to manifest negative experiences for yourself and negative people around you. Now, you're not always going to escape negative people. They are there for a reason. It's like good and bad psychics. I used to get really on my high horse about a bad psychic, and now I look at it and I still don't agree with some of their performances. However, I also understand that in the big picture, people need to see what doesn't work for them so that they can work out what does.
Yeah.
And it always comes back to the loyalty that you have to yourself and what is in your heart, because your heart is where everything lives. It's your life force. Your head really only knows what you've learned in this lifetime. Your heart knows every lifetime, and it holds that cell memory. So you've got me on a roll now, Nate.
Well, it's ego versus intuition, isn't it? The head, the ego, heart, the intuition. And most people now are living in the head, not the heart space.
Well, yeah, I've come to understand that the ego lives in the heart too. It's like the head office for everything, really. Because if we get a thought, we're going to get a feeling. And if we get a feeling, we're going to get a thought. And the heart is sitting in between, either regulating that or indicating that it's something we need to pay attention to. And so one of the major ways that I work is being heart-centered in terms of contribution, but also being able to receive.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time when we are negative, or when we have resentment, or when we are feeling hurt or depressed or in a rut, it's because somewhere the balance hasn't been brought in for us to receive as much as we give. Because I had to learn that myself. And there was another drop in from working with spirit of, if you're not willing to receive, giving will get harder to do.
And one of the questions that I ask my clients in my hour consultation is about giving and receiving. And I can guarantee that every single one of them gives way more than they ever receive, and they have so much trouble receiving, whether
Yeah.
it's a compliment, whether it's asking for help, or receiving help when somebody offers it to them. Like, so we get this balance that isn't in balance of giving
Yeah.
and receiving. It's just so high in giving, and so it's a lot of energy going out and none coming in.
Yeah.
So, and it's the same with words. We talk about words and receiving, and it's interpretation and perception are two very different things for everybody. So you might say to me, "Shut up," whereas I might take that as you said, "Shut up," like,
Yes.
but you meant it as a joke, and I've taken it as a personal insult. So people don't realize that, hang on, I may have come across differently than
Yeah.
how that person really, how I meant it to sound. That person's perceived it very differently to how I intended it. So
Yeah.
this is what you're saying. Intent, like, words have meaning, but it might not be the same for you as it does for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this is the major thing that I have learned too, is that we are conditioned to believe certain things and to believe our realities to be a certain way. When I was at uni, we learned about the cycle of poverty. And, when we were learning about this, I thought I understood it until it was related to me in a different way. And what dropped in from that is that everything in this world, in this human experience, is created based on someone else's interpretation and becomes a construct. So everything is a human construct. And so when we look at how we construct meaning, we're not just doing it in our present time and space and energy. We're bringing in DNA knowledge. We're bringing in, the knowledge and wisdom and experience that our parents and our family have shared with us. We're bringing in the knowledge and wisdom and experience of our school, our schooling, our teachers, our studies, our friends, our social interaction. We are learning every day.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I have learned is that everything is about how we perceive and interpret for ourselves. I can tell you that the grass is blue because I've been conditioned to believe that that's what blue looks like. And you're looking at it going, no, it's actually green.
Yeah.
Who's right and who's wrong? Because our reality is based on the interpretation and perceptions we've inherited in some way, shape, or form, be it in a past life or in this life, from the people around us. It's the difference between being assertive and aggressive. Most people think that to speak up for themselves, there has to be an essence of aggression. But that aggression has come from what you've witnessed in the past of other people standing up for themselves and the way that they have done it. And what I've learned is that there is more power in the unspoken word. Sometimes being assertive is saying nothing at all.
Yeah.
And being able to hold your own space and being able to set boundaries that you don't cross. Because, we hear all the time, oh, you need boundaries, you need to set boundaries. And I used to go, yeah, shit, what are they?
Yeah.
Like, what are my boundaries? And then, like I would say no, or I would say not now. And then I'd have to deal with the after effects of something that I would have always said yes to in the past. And now I'm saying no. And the people around me are not volunteers to my change.
Yeah.
And it's a higher level of emotional intelligence. And this is another thing too, like society focuses on, linguistics and science and maths intelligence. But one of the things that I excel at, and I found this out when I was at uni, is interpersonal and emotional intelligence, which comes with being a psychic medium who is also a healer. So
an empath, and
yeah, so I think that looking at your level of emotional intelligence is also a really important critical point to your healing.
yeah,
Because if you are still sitting in that lower level intelligence of, everyone's out to get me, the world's against me, it's everyone else's fault, it's not my fault,
yeah,
that's actually not a higher level of form of thinking at all.
yeah,
And it's not about blame. It's actually about taking responsibility for the things for your life and the things that you want in your life. And if you're not prepared to take responsibility for the positive and the challenging parts of that, then you're going to keep going around on that hamster wheel until you do.
yeah. Well, responsibility is a key word, because what we see when people become sick, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, is they go to a doctor and they give all their power to the doctor and say, fix me. Where's the responsibility to yourself in that? Where are you saying, well, I'm doing all these things that are making me sick, but I just want a pill for it because I don't care about all those things. I don't want to change anything. I don't want to look inside myself. You were talking about boundaries and how you allow people to treat you. You have taught people how to treat you by allowing them to cross boundaries. And then when you say no, they're like, what the hell's going on here? Why are you saying no? Because you've never said no before.
Yeah.
You've allowed me to treat you like shit. And when you finally stand up to somebody,
Yeah.
then they get triggered and then try and make you feel guilty for you having boundaries. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I remember hearing the expression of no is a sentence. And when I heard that, I can't even remember who I heard it from, but I heard it and I thought, how is no a sentence? It's only a word. And then I thought, oh, no, 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 no. It's the meaning that the word no has. And no is actually a very empowering word. And sit and ponder on what it means and how it lands for me. How does it feel? Because meaning is associated with feeling. If we are extrasensory, we have extrasensory perception. We are all intuitive. Because I've chosen to do this as part of my profession simply means it's like I've gone to the psychic gym and I've worked out a lot.
It's a muscle.
A muscle. And I mean, mediumship is different. Mediumship is more vibrational and frequency, which is essentially what energy is, but we all have an auric field that connects to someone else's auric field, people, places, or things, and we can feel energy before we can actually think about what it means. So I always say to my clients, how does that feel for you? Or what does that mean to you? Because I have a lot of my clients say to me, well, what does it mean? And I say, well, what does it mean for you?
Yeah.
And ponder on what language is mental food, you know? If you're thinking about what you're going to put in your mouth, then you're thinking about how you're thinking as well, and how you're making meaning and what context are you associating with. Because I think that when we bring it all back to ourselves, that saying of if it's meant to be, it's up to me, is so true on so many different levels. Because I think that how you experience life is all about the choices and decisions that you make on the little level into the big levels, into the, what am I going to do now? And what did I do back then? How did I learn from that? Did I learn from that? Is there more for me to learn and understand? Or am I done with that? And can I open myself up to something new? And I think that, we can hold on to stuff from our past and use that as a legacy to move forward, when in reality, it's in the past.
Yeah.
So it's that whole making choices comes down to, where you focus too, Nay, in terms of, what choices are you making around your health? Because we know, and studies have shown us that, when we honor ourselves by eating a piece of fruit instead of eating a bag of chips, and
Yeah.
I'm just, bringing it down to the very basics, is that, like, yep, a piece of fruit has natural sugar and all of that. Chips have sugar too.
Mm-hmm.
Which sugar is best for you? And if you choose the chips, then make a choice and stick with it. Don't beat yourself up and be
Yeah.
guilty about it. If
Yep.
you've made that choice, then go with it.
And I just discussed that in my last podcast about the
Okay,
impact of
yeah,
dieting. So it's like,
yeah,
don't beat yourself up if you do choose the wrong thing. But the next thing you choose wisely and understand how your body responds and reacts and how you feel when you do
yeah,
make the wrong choice, but don't beat yourself up about it. Because stress is the trigger for so many things, and weight gain is one of them. Like, stress is the major cause, because when we choose the wrong foods, it's usually related to stress. So it's not the food that you're eating. I mean, it is, but take one step backwards and look at the stress of why you chose that food, or why you choose to continually have Maccas for lunch, or whatever it is, or why you're addicted to
how
energy
people
drinks.
afford to have
you
maggots.
know like it's about choice, and the whole language around menopause or health or healing. Like, I know I used to be like, oh my God, I'm so sick and nobody can help me, and all that language wasn't helping
Nobody
me at all.
cares.
Yeah, no one gives a shit. Blah blah blah. Like, why can't I get better? Why am I fat? Why am I this? Why am I that? Why, when I should have been like, I'm on a healing journey. Like, my head was more around where I'm going. And I think you said to me one time, I was doing the healing, and I had come quite far. And you said to me, instead of looking how far you have to go, look at how far you've come. And I was like, oh
Mm,
fuck yeah. Like, I've come so far. I've done a lot of work. I obviously still have more to go. And I'm not where I want to be, but I'm where I wasn't
yeah,
2 years ago. Like,
yeah,
and I'm learning so much about myself, about health. I'm teaching my children the right way to look at health and healing, and we pick an essential oil instead of paracetamol. I've
yeah,
learned so much through my illness, and now I actually have gratitude towards it, because I wouldn't have learned that much. I wouldn't have gone through my stress. I could probably still be in a shitty marriage. Like, I've gone, the growth that I've had
yeah,
from being sick would never have happened.
yeah, for
And now
sure.
I teach other people
Yeah.
to be better.
Some of the greatest teachers that I've had in my life are, first and foremost, my children. I think becoming a mother and
Yeah.
being responsible for other human beings and making sure life and turn out okay.
Yeah.
There's been lots of lessons around that. My kids have been my greatest teachers, and the other greatest teachers are the people who have treated me like shit, challenged me, or turned their backs on me.
Yeah.
Because in those moments, when you're a parent, I think that you're kind of deciphering through the parenting that you've been exposed to as a child, and then growing up yourself, your inner child, and the experiences that you've had there. And this person that on a soul level you agreed to parent,
Mm-hmm.
them coming in and facilitating their lessons is a different form of responsibility that we take on as a parent. It's not about the whole peace, love, and mung beans, and who's a good parent, who's a bad parent, because it's all meant to be, and that's the interesting part about it. And then the people that have come into your life that have made you feel like, well, they haven't made you, but your experience with them has left you feeling like shit, or
Yeah.
really sad, or you know that's where you learn a lot of lessons. And I remember someone saying to me years ago, in the first time I worked, you know, exchanging money for my abilities. And I had this lady say to me, "Why me?" And I said, "Why not you? Why are you above learning lessons? We've all got to learn them. Why are you above it? And
But the
no,
why me question is a big question in
it
health.
really is.
Like people think that this condition that they've got themselves in just happened overnight and it just happened to them by accident. And you know what? Somehow I magically
I
got,
think,
yeah,
yeah,
I magically got a thyroid condition. I magically got an autoimmune disease. They don't understand that it's manifested in their body for years and years and years. And it's a lifetime of choices that
yeah,
that's created this problem. And they, because they don't want to look at that, they're just in that mindset of this happened to me and woe is me. And, you know, so that whole thought process, the language that they're saying, the things that they're saying about how they got themselves into this condition, instead of going, how did I get here? And how can I
yeah,
get myself out of here? And how can
yeah.
I learn from this?
Well, I think that's the other thing too, is understanding that the word manifestation is not about someone waving a magical wand and something all of a sudden appearing with you doing nothing to create it. I mean, manifestation simply is to bring something into reality. And so if you are constantly saying, I feel sick, and this is the discussion you and I had
Yep.
few times for both of us, like not
Yeah.
just for you, for me too, because I've had my own journey with my health. It's that whole I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat.
Hmm.
Well, hello,
Yeah.
you what did you expect? It's like everything that is happening in your reality right now is something that you have manifested in the past. I remember when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was hot, man. Like I was
Me
gorgeous.
too.
And I look back at that woman, like she's sitting behind me, actually. I don't know if you can't see her. But I look back at that woman, and at that time, I was told I had a big bum. I was told I was up myself. Look, so many people put shit on that woman.
Yep.
She believed it,
Yeah.
and now I am the product of what I believed and thought and manifested.
Yeah.
And so it's not just about health. Like I totally agree with you that it is about choices. It is
Yep.
about, the way that you invest in yourself. And, a girlfriend of mine taught me the difference between investment and spending,
Yeah.
and
We talked about that too a lot, didn't we? Yep.
did. And the thing is that I'm still working on this. So it's not
Mhm.
something that just, again, you wave a magic wand and okay, I'm now an investor.
Yeah. I never use the word spend anymore, ever.
I'm the same. I don't spend time.
No.
If I'm not investing it, I don't do it.
Yep.
It's that simple. So I think that, when you understand the difference between investment and spending, it changes your whole perception on everything again, because investment is like planting seeds and watering them and fertilizing them. You are investing time and energy and money
Yep.
into growth. You don't plant a seed with the intention of it dying. You plant a seed with the intention of nurturing that into growth of
Yeah.
something, some form. When we are spending, we are in a disposable society now. It's
Yep.
all about use it two or three times and throw it away. So the thing is that if we look at life as a disposable society, then we don't really get to invest in anything because there's nothing left to nurture and grow. So
Yeah.
it's all about that mind shift of I'm going to invest my time and energy in creating the life that I choose to have. And creativity is ideas being brought into form. And this is the feminine and masculine balance. And I think that's the other thing too. People think balance is 50-50. No,
Yeah.
some weeks it's 70-30, other weeks it's 30-70. It's never 50-50.
Yeah.
That's about equality. And life's not always about making sure everything matches up, because it's in those imperfections that we grow.
Yeah.
So the word perfect, the word beauty, the word positive, the word negative, they're all in the eye of the beholder. What is negative to one person is someone else's nectar of the gods.
Yeah.
So it's not about whether it's right or wrong. It's about what feels in alignment with you. And if it doesn't feel in alignment, then make a decision about it. Stay out of alignment or move into your alignment.
100%. And I speak about that all the time. What feels right for you? You know, we, like in my last podcast, talked about diets.
Like I've
Just
tuned into your previous podcast, I haven't even
you
heard
have
it yet.
to, because we're bringing a lot of it up. And it's like, you know, what works for you in a diet? I don't like the term diet, but what people do is diet, right? And, you know, if someone might do really well on carnivore, yet someone else could be a vegan, but you shouldn't be being vegan because
Someone else is.
Mary on TikTok's doing it and she's skinny and I want to be
It's
skinny like
following.
Mary. You know, it's about what makes you feel good, what brings you into alignment. It does, you know, when you have food, it should bring you joy. Like you and I are foodies, right?
Oh,
We enjoy food, we connect over food with other people, each other. That's what food is about. It's about nourishment, and it's so much more than weight loss. But people look at it as weight loss.
I'll ask you a question. Do you have fad foods?
Do I?
Have fad
Oh,
foods?
yeah.
Beetroot's my thing at the moment. And Ciara, my daughter, you know, like we're into beetroot
Yeah.
because beetroot represents for us spring and summer,
Yeah.
you know. And so we associate food like we associate meaning, you know, like we
Yeah.
have warmer foods and summer salads and you know,
Exactly.
all of that sort of stuff. And so
It. It
I
is.
don't
And whatever you feel like, because you feel like beetroot, right? And
know.
that's what you want to eat right now. So eat it. Like ours, we go through different, like me and the kids, one few months it would be Mexican. We're just like, yeah, we're trying all this Mexican food. And then it's Middle Eastern. And then it's like, I'm going through my Vietnamese stage. And like, so we have our fads of the same thing, but it's usually a type of food from a different culture. And the kids are like, oh, another Vietnamese salad.
But you know, I think that food for us isn't about dieting. Food is about nutrition and memories. We create so many memories together over food. I mean, how many times have we had memories over food,
Oh,
Nay?
yeah.
You know, like that pecan slice. Oh my God, Miami's Home Health, go there. Pecan slice.
It is
Oh
pretty
my God.
good.
But you know, like it's that different emotion that food stirs. And so if you're associating your language with negativity around food, then it's no wonder food has become your enemy and you're eating
Right.
like shit.
Yep.
You know, I'm no dietitian, but I don't have a diet either. I have a food regime. Like I have a, you know, because for me personally, you know me. It's one of the biggest challenges that Naomi's had with me. Believe me, sometimes the biggest challenges are people closest to you, where where you start something and you don't finish it, and
Yeah.
I'm a shocker for it. And I own that though. Like I know that I do that
Yeah.
because. And you know, my husband and I just had this conversation yesterday. It's like, well, you started it, but you haven't finished it. Oh, right. What is that? And I'm still working on what is that?
Yeah. But at
What
least you're working on it. You're trying to understand why.
That's it. That's it. And I, you know, I don't know that I'll ever understand it. To be honest, like I'm, you know, my worst enemy at times. But I think that's the thing is that, you know, it's about going, okay, I do this. I am
Yeah.
aware of this. I'm not sure why I do it, and I'm not sure how I can change that. But the fact that it's become in my realm and I'm aware of it means that it's another avenue of growth for me.
Yeah.
And so I think the commitment that I make for myself and that I would encourage everyone to make is that commitment to yourself to
Yeah.
grow.
Totally. Well, you
Because
know, one of the words I really dislike around food is calorie deficit, which is what you'll hear a nutritionist or a dietitian put you in, basically. For me, deficit is negative. It's a low. It's, you know,
yeah,
why are we talking about a low word, a negative word, like you know, a deficit is under. So when we're talking about restriction and stuff like that, food around food, that's in your head. Oh my God, I have to eat this way and I've got to restrict this and I can't have, and that gets in your mind instead of going, like what I do for people is I prefer to add in foods that are going to be specific to their symptoms. So it's easier in your mind to go, oh, I get to add in papaya because I have this,
Yeah,
or I
you
get
like
to add
that.
in. Yeah. And it's more around the mental thing than deficit. Like when
Yeah.
you say deficit, it's like, oh, deficit. But when you're adding, like calorie deficit, oh, I've got to take away stuff. Oh, I've got to, be in this negative way
Mm.
of eating. Whereas when you're adding in food for your symptoms or whatever, it's like, oh, I get to eat this. And, you
How
know,
do you work with addictive personalities though, Nay? Because I know for me personally, like I smoked for years and
yeah,
everyone, smoking is bad for you and and regardless of what everybody else thought, if I wanted to have a cigarette, I would,
yeah,
and I didn't give up smoking until I was ready, despite everyone else's opinions. Now, there's the essence of an addictive personality in there, of course, but there's also the essence of a rebel going, get stuffed, I'll do
yeah,
what I want, You work how you associate
yes.
meaning to something and the addictive personality, like
Looking at what were you escaping? What were you
oh,
trying to
there's that too.
numb? What were
Yeah.
you, the trigger of why? I always look at why am I doing that? Like, why are you addicted to marijuana?
It's
Why
the
do you like to have a wine? Like, there's a difference between enjoying two wines and sitting down to a bottle every night and smashing it down, or
yeah,
becoming the drunkest person at a party.
which we have done in the past.
Yeah, that was fun at the time. It's not fun the next day.
I didn't know what was going on. I didn't
But
care.
yeah, but now it's not something we do because we have gone through why we do things.
Yeah.
Like I'm the same as you. I might have some drinks. I didn't touch alcohol for years while I was healing. And now it's like, oh, I can have a wine with some friends here and
Yeah.
there, or I can have a
Yeah.
margarita when I go to Bali, things like that. But I'm aware of when my cutoff point is. I'm
Yeah.
aware of how it makes me feel. I'm aware of why I did that in the past. It's a lot about awareness and balance. Like balance was the biggest word for me in my healing. It was one thing that I had zero balance of anything. Like it was so
Yeah.
much of one thing,
Or not.
nothing of another, like it was, the femininity and masculinity, those were out of balance, giving and receiving out of balance, all of those things. And once you start to bring those things into more balance, that's when you start to find, well, I don't need the cigarettes as much, or, and the habit of going out the back and sitting on the chair and having your cigarette and your coffee. Like, what is the habit that you're created? How about creating a new habit? Which is what I focus on with people, is creating new habits one at a time.
The thing is that ego is showing us where the fear exists
Yeah.
and stepping in to protect us. But here's the other thing that most people don't talk about in the context of ego is that that's your drive.
Yeah.
That's the thing that gives you confidence. That's the thing that says, I can do this. That's ego too.
Yeah, well, that's your masculine side, and your
Yeah.
intuition is like your feminine side. So if you dive into both of them, you've got the balance. You're using ego to determine things. Like in business, for example, you might use your intuition to go, I think I'll run with this.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah, and then your ego is going to put that into place.
this is the thing, like, God, we could be here for hours now.
I
And
know.
this, I know that we've got to wrap it up soon, but I know, the difference between masculine and feminine energy too. There's so many opinions out there
Mm.
on what's feminine and what's masculine. And I have actually, and this, may help your audience as well, is that feminine energy is just simply about contemplation and reflection and creation.
Mm.
Sitting in that space of contemplating, and with the work that you do as well, sitting in that space of contemplating what you are saying to your client, you
Mm.
know and them receiving it. And how do they receive it? To contemplate it, how do we communicate? What language do we use that holds space for that contemplation and that reflection, so that when we make a decision, we can start to see the way forward on how that gets to take place. And then with masculine energy, it's really about making that commitment to do the thing and actually being strategic and taking certain steps. And if that step doesn't work, then trying something different, but having the willingness to actually put those steps in place to create what our feminine side has been showing us.
Yeah.
And I think that we talk about marriage as in the joining of two people who are in love. Well, then why can't we join the masculine and feminine sides of ourselves and have self-love as a path forward?
Exactly.
And I think that that's where people get to grow, is by acknowledging their feminine and how that feminine energy is being expressed within you. And then looking at that masculine energy and how that masculine energy is being expressed within you. And how can those two get on the same page and work together? Because without creation, we have no steps to take.
Yeah.
But if we don't take steps, we've got nothing to create. So they have to work together. And this kind of goes in with that whole balance of, well, sometimes the feminine needs to take over. Sometimes it is important to just stop and think about it and feel into it. And then and so I think that if you start honoring yourself, if you're willing to receive from yourself, then you're going to have so much more to give others.
Yeah, honoring yourself is the key. Self-love, I'm going to do a podcast on that, because if
Yes, you
you
should.
don't honor yourself and have self-love, you cannot heal, because you're not going to give to yourself. You're
Yeah.
not going to receive. All of the things that we have spoken about revolves around self-love, and healing requires that in order for you to want to do it. If you don't love yourself, you don't really want to get better, in a sense, a lot of the time. Or you're not going to look into yourself. You're not going to do the inner work. You're not going to do all the things that you need, and using your intuition and all that. And it's, and the whole thing about weight gain,
Yeah.
comes down to self-love in the end, and accepting yourself where you are in the present moment.
Yeah. And acknowledging how you got there too, because
Yeah,
like I said before, the weight I am now is the weight I thought I was.
yeah, yeah.
I
Yes. How
every
you perceived
yeah,
yourself. Like,
yeah.
yeah. And you look at yourself when you were
Yeah.
20 at pictures, and you're like, geez, I wish I was that fat now.
Oh, no, right? I'm pissed at myself for not loving that woman back then.
Yes,
But
so am I. Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know.
No.
And that's part of the journey too,
Yeah.
It's not about judging yourself. I mean, it's hard not to judge because we are human, and the human construct is based on judgment of some sort. So to say unconditional, I challenge that, because there's always a condition.
Condition.
To
100%.
say no judgment, that's bullshit. There's always a judgment. I don't think that we need to get into these ethereal definitions to be able to grow.
Yeah.
What I do think we need to do is love on ourselves, because the thing is, love always wins. And if love always wins, then we can see how we're not loving ourselves enough, and we can see how we're loving on ourselves, and we can see the growth. It's like that whole investment versus spending.
Yeah.
It always comes back to that. And people around you will either reflect that and back to you, or they'll repel it to you. And you're going to find that in my experience, what I have found is the more that I love on me, the less some people want to be around me. And I think a lot of that is associated with the fact that I'm showing them something they don't want to see in
Yeah.
themselves.
And their own version of themselves and their own perception of themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I try and teach everyone. You are always healing and learning. And this whole, what I dislike so much about the healing industry is, do this diet for a few weeks, or do a cleanse for a couple of days or a few weeks. Like, you should be, this is your new life. You do this forever. You are teaching yourself forever. You've created new lifestyle habits,
Yeah.
and this is how you live now. This is not you going, well, I'll just meditate this week, and then next week I'm not going to do that. Like, this is a practice. And if you enjoy meditation or you get something out of it, then you continue to do
Yeah.
it. I quite like somatic yoga. So that's my thing. That
Yeah.
helps me release a lot of stuff. I do meditation here and there. It's not a practice I do every day or anything, but I do it when I know I need it.
Yeah. It's like journaling.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
those things are about knowing what you need, knowing what you do best, what resonates with you, what you're in alignment with, instead of just going through the process every day and being stressed and thinking you've got to be on a diet and I'm going to do a 3-day cleanse and I'm going to restrict myself and I'm blah, 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 the whole thing. It's everything, all of that, what we just talked about relates to stress, which is why you're unwell. End of story.
Yeah, I think if nothing changes, nothing changes. And
100%.
if nothing's changing and you're stressing, then maybe you should look at why.
Yeah.
Rather than, and that doesn't mean that, like it's not a band-aid effect. It's not an instantaneous, I've waved a magic wand, I'm no longer stressed. That's bullshit. And it's, in my opinion, not a reality.
No.
Because I
Different
know,
stress comes into your life every day.
yeah, and what is joy? Like, I know for me, a good belly laugh is something that I absolutely love to do, but could I do it all the time every day? Absolutely not. I'd probably have killer abs, but your jaw hurts,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's about putting things in the place that works for you rather than feeling like it has to look or be a certain
Yeah.
way. That's how it is for someone else. I think this is where social media has been amazing, but also bloody awful
Yeah.
in terms of how we perceive ourselves now.
Yeah. It's,
Right?
and like what, like for me, when I get up in the morning, I know I either have celery juice, lemon water, or aloe vera, right? And I get up and I know that's going to make me feel good. And I look at it like I am so damn lucky I found these to help me heal. Instead of looking at like, which I don't like celery at all, right? Never liked it.
I do. I
It's
love
the
it.
only food I don't really like. And instead of looking at it and go, oh my God, I've got to drink this celery juice. I don't like the taste, but I know it helps me. And I look at it like, so glad I have this in my life instead of the other way. And that's the whole point of what we're talking about
Yeah.
here is how you look at things instead of looking at your healing like it's a chore, a job, a mission. Look at it like, this is where I'm going to get to. This is what I want. This is what I need. This is what I desire. Yeah. And
Go
this is,
me for acknowledging where I'm at,
yeah. Yeah. So, but we could talk all day.
good. Yes.
Thank
And
you
we
so
have done this in the past.
Yeah. But thank you so much for sharing your knowledge because you shared it with me so many times, and I wanted other people to experience what I've learned from you. And hopefully, they take something from this and put it into practice, or they contact you and say, listen, help me. However, whatever way works for them, whatever you resonate with, whatever brings them into alignment. But this is what you and I, why we do what we do, why we do our profession, because we're here to help people and bring people back to where they need to be.
Yeah, look, thank you so much for inviting me. I always love when we get into juicy stuff and you know, and it's even funnier when we have different opinions on stuff. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, and
yeah,
I love that because it keeps it real. It's not
100%.
about being right or wrong. It's about looking at how we're different and how we contribute. And I think that's the biggest thing that I want to leave everybody with is look at how you can contribute. I know that that was a really big game changer for me is understanding the word contribution.
Yep.
Because when I contribute to myself, I have so much more to contribute with others. And if you are in a similar boat to Naomi and I, where we are, we're of service. If you are in some form of service, whether it's being mum at home, trying to balance life, working and in a marriage or partnership, or even if you're on your own, like trying to get on with your life in whatever circumstances you're in, if you make the time to contribute to your own life, then when you get to contribute to other people's lives, you're going to feel so much more in alignment, so much more balanced, and so much happier doing it.
Totally.
Contribute from your heart. It's your life force. And if you want to contribute to other people's lives and give it the most beautiful energy that you can, but start with giving to yourself first. Obviously, see Naomi. All sorts of stuff she can help you with. But yeah, focus on
Yeah.
that. Focus on how even seeing Naomi is contributing to your own life by seeking help with someone that you've been attracted to because she's in your realm for a reason. And so if you're looking at why has this woman popped up, then look at what she's showing in you that you want to see in you, because we are reflections of each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, but thank you.
I love
Thank
that.
you so
Thanks.
much for having me on your show.
Yes, and if anybody has resonated with this podcast, please share it with people. It's not just for people
Yeah,
with thyroid or autoimmune disease, it's about healing and growth. And we want to reach as many people as we can to help them get to the health and wellness that they desire or they need. And this is what it's all about for us, is reaching as many people as possible. So the episode next week that I would love to tap into would be self-love, I feel. I hadn't had one planned, but I think that's where I'll go next because it's super important on your journey. So thank you and take care.